Hello everyone, this is Virendra Singh from ToolsQA.com. I welcome you to the new set of tutorials that we have on TestNG. TestNG is a very famous test automation framework that I think most companies use to run and run their automation tests. Now this is a very versatile framework, and I think everybody should know what TestNG is if you are in a testing domain. TestNG can also be used as a unit testing framework where you can run your unit tests using TestNG. So we will try to explore TestNG in this series of tutorials, which will be around 7 to 8 in number, and in each class we will talk about some important features of TestNG. Don't expect that all of TestNG is covered in these tutorials because TestNG is quite big. I will try to cover the main bigger topics which are very important in TestNG, so that you can have a firm base to set with learning new functionalities of TestNG or the other functionalities of TestNG. So let us start with today's agenda. Today's agenda is Introduction to TestNG, setting up TestNG, first test case in TestNG, then we will try to run our tests, and we will try to explore different ways in which we can run our tests. Now, TestNG is a Java-based tool, so there are some prerequisites which are required, and there are some important points to note before we get into the class. So I've just written them down in a small notepad so that I don't forget it. Well, the points to note are: TestNG will be explained in the context of simple tests. Non-Selenium tests is what I mean. So I won't be putting Selenium right away in the tests, but I would start with some very simple tests, and then we will move on to Selenium. The concepts taught here are applicable to any test tool that you use, which is compatible with Java. So it could be your robot framework, or it could be your Selenium tests, or some auto IT tests that you have. Now, I also want to tell you that you should have a functional knowledge of Java before you jump into these tutorials, because if you don't know Java, there is no point in starting with these tutorials, because here we will assume that you already know Java. You have at least a functional knowledge of Java, you have written some programs, and you know the object-oriented concepts. So because they are required here. If you haven't gone through our Java tutorials earlier, and if you don't have any knowledge about the core concepts of Java, just try to learn about them and then come back on these tutorials. Okay, so let's go back. Let me close everything else. Let's go back and let us see what do we have. So Introduction to TestNG. So basically we have talked about TestNG a little bit already. We know that TestNG is an automation testing framework which allows you to write tests, right? And it also allows you to run tests. Now, write and run tests are two different things. Writing tests require you to select a tool on which you want to write your tests and then group them together. So TestNG provides you with those functionalities which can help you group together your tests in test suites, or in certain groups, and then run them based on some condition on the group. We will learn this in the coming classes near the advanced part of the classes. And then TestNG also gives us ways to run tests, right? So it gives you a way to run all your tests, and you can define the tests that you want to run in an XML file. There are many other ways to do that apart from XML files, but the most common way is to have a testng.xml file, which will help you gather all your tests in one file and then run them. Now, TestNG was inspired from JUnit, and JUnit, as we know, is a unit testing framework, right? So TestNG can be considered as a more advanced version of JUnit. TestNG contains more advanced features as compared to JUnit. Now, TestNG can be used to run any of your unit as well as functional and integration tests. So you can use it in a variety of situations. Now, let us stop with the definition here. As we learn TestNG more, we will come up with new definitions of TestNG, or we will come up with a very more refined definition of TestNG. So let us quickly jump into the next slide, which is setting up TestNG. Now, when you start running your tests, you would want to set up your testing environment. Yeah, right. So testing environment would include the platform on which you want to write your test. We will choose Eclipse right now because Eclipse is readily available and most people already are familiar with Eclipse. You can use NetBeans or IntelliJ. There are some other development environments that you can use, right? But I think the concept would remain the same. You would have to include a plugin or a jar. So we will first set up our test environment, and to set up a test environment you have two ways. In Eclipse you can have a plugin. Just install the plugin in the Eclipse IDE and you will start seeing TestNG related features in your Eclipse, right? Then you can use jar files directly, right? You can directly download the jar files, include it in your project, and you are done. So let's start with installing TestNG plugin in Eclipse. So I had a link here. Basically, if you go back to the slide, you would see that here I have mentioned the main page where you can find TestNG related information, TestNG's Eclipse plugin related information, how to install it and how to use it. And then there are these two links which talk about how you can download the plugin directly. So these links actually host the plugin. So let us see what I mean by that. So open your Eclipse environment. If you don't have it, install Eclipse and just bring it up. On the Eclipse window you have a help button. Click on that. You will see an option called install new software. Just click on that. Once you do that, it will ask you for a URL. It will say that tell me a place where you want me to find your plugin, right? So all you have to do is just copy the URL. It's mentioned in the slide. It's this one. Copy this URL and just paste it here. Do add and give a friendly name to it. So I would prefer giving TestNG. After that, I will put OK on it, right? So it will add it in your list. Click on the drop down button and here you would see TestNG being created. Select this. Once you select this, you would see that it will start querying the internet for any plugin available at this location. It queries that and it finds that there is a TestNG plugin there, right? It will list it down in the window below. Just select it and do a next on it. Accept the default values and do a next on it. Once you do next, it will start installing it. It will start doing some things. So it will quickly, actually it will this is a very small plugin. It will move you to the next page. Do a next on it, accept the terms and condition, and do a finish on it. So once you do finish, it will install the software for you, and it should be very quick because it's a very small plugin, so it should be quick. And if you see the detail, you would see that it's trying to load a couple of files and then install them. So I will pause the video for a few seconds here so that the installation is complete. Okay, so during the process of installation, it will reach to a point where it will give you a security warning. The warning is nothing really to worry about because it's talking about the content being unsigned. So as we know that it's a TestNG tool, we can do a OK on it, and once you do that, it will complete the installation process. Once it completes the installation process, it will ask you to restart, right? Just click on yes and your tool will restart. Alright, so our tool is back up again. You would see that Eclipse has come up. Now once Eclipse is there, you can go to Windows and let us see if we have it in the perspective. Uh, well, right now we don't have anything. Don't worry about it. We will come here and we will see that all our TestNG uh, related functionalities are present in the Eclipse after installation. So we'll come back to how to verify that you have successfully installed TestNG. I will come back to that. Let us move on to the next slide. The second way of doing it is using the jar files, right? So I would suggest that you use both ways of you have both the ways ready on your system. You should have your jar files plus your TestNG plugin already installed before starting to write any test code. So uh, the second way, which is the jar files, all you have to do is just download these two jar files, right? The first one is TestNG, and by X's I mean the version numbers. So at this point in time there might be a different version number available, right? You need TestNG some version number.jar and jcommander some version number.jar. The best way to find these libraries, the jar files, is to um, go to MVN repository, which is the Maven repository. Go there and do a search on it. Right here, put TestNG, and it will list down all the TestNG released jar files. So if I click on TestNG, the very first result, you would see that here is the list of jar files which are available. Here is the list of jar files. Let me show it to you in a different way. Yeah, so this is the latest version which is available, 6.8.21. so you can download that. I will start downloading it, and here's the link to download jar, right? So I have already downloaded the jar, so I would skip that part, but for you, download the jar in some location which you remember later on. So now once you have TestNG, download the jcommander jar file. Similarly, go for the very first result. Jcommander is nothing but a command line parser. So here you would see that 1.47 is the latest version. Click on that, download it, and save it in the same location. In my case, what I have done, I have saved the Java files, the jar files, in a folder in the E drive tools Java TestNG, right? So now we are set up for writing our first tests. So let us see how we can do that. Just give me a minute. Yes, so open your Eclipse. I hope everybody is aware of the functionalities of Eclipse and have a basic understanding of the usage of Eclipse, right? So let us create a new project. I will create a new project, and let's say let's name it Learn TestNG, right? And I will accept the defaults. It will create a new project for me. Now the very first thing after I have created a TestNG or any project, a project with any name, the very first thing would be I would want to add the jar files that I downloaded, right? Well, it did something really bad. Yes, so the very first thing that I would want to do is go to properties, go to Java build path, and there I would say add external jars, right? Once I do add external jars, I will this window comes up. This window, I will navigate to the correct window here, the correct location here. I would go to my tools Java TestNG folder, and I will include these two .java files, right? TestNG 6.8.8 and jcommander 1.47. The version number might be different for you because there might be some later versions available when you start writing your code. So these two are the files the jars that you want to include. Just click on OK, OK again, and you would see that there is a new set of referenced libraries available. If you click on that, you would see that JCommander and TestNG are present there. Now your system is set up to write your very first test. Let us write our first test. How do we write that? In the source folder, let's create a new class and let's name it anything. Let's first create a package called tests. You can create any package name, but for the sake of tutorial, let's create a package called tests. And in the class name, let's create the class name as test class, right? And I will do a finish on it. I will accept the defaults, I will do a finish on it, and it will create a small template for the class, right? Here is the template. It's coming up. Yeah, here's the template, right? So to write a TestNG test, you just need a test method. Let's say this is my test method called test1, and this test method does something. Let's say this test method verifies the addition of two numbers, right? And for the time being, let's say we have two numbers called 10 and 20, right? And we just want to verify that these two number work or not, like assert dot well, there's something wrong here with my system. Sometimes my Eclipse hang, so just give it a minute, let it cool off, right? So I would do a assert dot, and I can after that assert anything. Let's say I want to assert whether the two numbers are equal, so I would say 10 is equal to 20, right? Or no, we want to assert A is equal to B, right? This is what I want to assert, right? So this is a very simple test method which does nothing but compares two numbers. It says that A and B should be equal, right? Now assert is a TestNG assert that we have. Assert is a functionality given to us by TestNG. Now these asserts are your validations. So you would see that assert gives us lots of different methods. For example, you can assert equal character with another character. You can assert equal integer with another integer, and similarly as you move along, there are lots of other things that you can assert. You can assert a collection with another collection, and long with another long, and then a string message, right? In here also you would have some string message that you can print. Let's say the two numbers are equal, right? Probably, yeah. So this assert equal accepts three arguments. The first one is the actual result, the expected result, and the message that you want to print, right? And this assert resides inside a package called org.testng.assert, right? Try to just go through the options available here. We will talk about assert later on in the coming classes, and we'll talk in details about it, and we will give few examples on how we can use assert. But for the time being, just consider it as something that you have to remember, right? So now we have a test method, but this test method is not a TestNG test method, which means that TestNG won't be able to recognize this method as a test method, right? For it to be a test method, TestNG says that all the test methods should be annotated. That means should have an annotation interface of @test, right? Now @test with a capital T. Now when I write this down, it shows me this error line, right? So let's see what the error is. It wants me to import the test annotation, and the test annotation is present inside org.testng.annotations, right? I do this, and it imports the @test annotation, right? Now this is a very simple, very basic test that we can create for TestNG, for create a test using TestNG, and this form will be modified to make it little more complex and little more uh, more towards the reality. For example, little more towards the actual tests that you will write in your project, right? So for the time being, this is just a simple test, and we know that all tests have a annotation called add test, right? So now when we have this, once we have this, we would want to run it, right? How do we run it? Now before I go into running part, let me see what do we have in the slides. In the next slide, we had first test case in TestNG. I just showed you how to create a first test. Then let us see how we can run our tests. Now to run your test, there are three ways. You can run it directly from the Eclipse, you can run it from command line, or you can run it programmatically. Now we will talk about the programmatically part, which is the third part, later on, once you have the complete knowledge of what TestNG is and how we can use it. Then I will move on to the programmatical execution of TestNG. Now for the time being, let's go with the very first option, which is directly from Eclipse. Then we will try to learn how we can start your TestNG test using a command line. So once we do that, let us go back and let us see how to run it in Eclipse. To run it in Eclipse, all you have to do is just right click on the test class or test method or test class and do a run as. When you do run as, it should automatically give you a TestNG test, right? If it doesn't give you TestNG test, it means that your installation of plugin didn't happen properly. Your plugin was not installed correctly, right? So I told you that we will talk about verification of the plugin later on. Now this is what I meant. So if you would do a run as, you should get a TestNG option, right? This option will come only if you have a add test method. If I remove this and if I do a run as, well, it's coming still, but it shouldn't come. I think I'm wrong in that. So basically this option will pop up. Just select this option, and when you do that, you would see that TestNG will run your test, and while running your test, it will pop up the TestNG result window, and you would see that this is the TestNG result window. It says that the TestNG is default suite, it's a default test, default suite and default test. Well, some people call it suite, some people call it suite, so I will just stick with suite. I would say default suite, default test, and inside default test, this is the test, tests.test class. Now what do you mean by tests.test class? Tests is the package name, test class is the class name, and in the class name there is a method called test1, right? This is your test method, test1. In this window you can quickly see the summary. It says that there were one test and one test was executed, and it took us 2625 milliseconds to run it. Here you will see the summary of how many tests passed, how many tests failed, and how many tests were skipped. Now I can see the same information by clicking on failed tests or the summary. In the summary, let me just expand it. In the summary, it says that it took us 0.106 second to run one test, right? So this is how you can even look at the test summary. Now let us try to add some more tests to your very first test class. Let us add another test, and let us say this test has a name called test2, and in this test let us try to assert something which is true. Assert equal, and let us say that it has a string comparison and it compares two string, and this time let's make the string equal so that we get a passing test also. So let's say, oh, right now this is another test. Now if I don't give at the rate test annotation to this test, you would see that this test won't be picked for execution. If I run it, you would see that it will run the test class, but it will just run one test, right? You would see that, let me expand it. You would see that it will just pick all tests. You would see that it has just picked test 1. It did not pick test 2. The reason is that test 2 is a simple method. It's not a TestNG test method. To make it a TestNG test method, I have to do a test on it. I have to put this annotation, right? Once I have this annotation, I will again do right click and do a debug as TestNG test. And this time you would see that it will pick two methods, right? It says that there were two methods that it picked. And if I go down in the summary, you would see that it says that in this class, test.test class, there were two methods, test1 and test2, and it executed both. And it also gives you the time. It says 0.159 seconds for this one, 0.021 seconds for this one, and it gives you a visual indicator which one passed and which one failed. The one with the red failed and one with the green passed, right? So this is how you can get a summary of what tests were run and what were the results, right? So this was just a simple explanation of how you can create a TestNG test and how you can run it. Now you can run the TestNG test using what do we call it, the command line also. Now at this point in time, if you are getting confused with the command line and stuff, just ignore it for the time being, right? Come back later on once you have gone through the other videos. Come back later on and try to understand it with more information around TestNG, right? So let me show you how we can run these same tests in command line. The very first thing that you want to do would be to compress all your tests or archive all your tests into a jar file. So how do we do that? We click on file, we click on export, and here we say that I want to do a jar file. I'm sorry, it was quick, so I will do it again. Export. I say that I want to export it as a jar file. I do next on it. It says that which project. I would select this one. Yes, I want the class path and the project path to be included, and I will give a destination where I want the jar file. So for the time being, I will just export it inside the TestNG folder, and I will name it test1.jar, right? I will do finish on it, and you will see that there is a test1.jar file created. Well, to understand how we can run it through command line, I think we have to understand the testng.xml. So let us do one thing. Let us cover option 2. Option 2 and option 3 for running your test in the coming classes. So in the next class, we will talk about what a testng.xml is, and then how we can run it through command line. So in that class, you will understand more about how to run it in different ways. But for the time being, you can run it directly from Eclipse, and that would be good enough for understanding TestNG. So with this, I will close the class today and hope to see you in the next tutorial. Thank you very much.